into positions of hopelessness and helplessness. The government gives them the drugs, builds bigger prisons, passes a 3-strike law, and then wants us to sing God Bless America. No, no, no. Not God Bless America. God damn America. That's in the Bible for killing innocent people. God damn America for treating us citizens as less than human. God damn America as long as she tries to act like she is God and she is supreme.
All right. Holy moly, me oh my. Bender, Leela, Amy Fry. Futurama episodes new are happening, I think. I don't know. I heard their new Futurama episodes coming out. I watched the new King of the Hill once. We'll talk about that later. Holy moly, me oh my. Anders is my favorite guy. Anders, whenever I'm with you, it's a podcast.
Wow, Anders Lee here. Thank you for that. Mashing 2 hits together. I think we started the same way last week, but I support the decision to keep doing that song, rehashing.
It's not, but Home is by Edward Sharpe and the Magnetic Zeros is not going away. It's become permanently lodged in the internet. So don't think people have stopped talking about it.
That guy failed at his mission to proclaim it. I mean, he said it's the worst song of all time, and then that led to just everyone hearing the song way more. Did you see Edward Sharpe himself was confronted with it? He was interviewed about it, and he was pretty fun, one of my favorite musician interviews, I will say, because as I'm sure we'll talk about today, art obviously very subjective, but he said in the interview, it's actually it's not a bad song, and I've confirmed that. But he said it like very scientifically. He's like, I've talked with I've talked with several people, including my dad, and I have confirmed that the song is not bad, which I agree with. I think it's a good song. And yeah, as we got into, it's not the Lumineers. These are different tiers of white people music.
I have a damning old tweet from like a year ago of me saying I like that song, but I'm saying it's an objectively bad song. I'm just old and I can admit that I like things that are like disliked and objectively bad. But it's still, I cannot believe that I said that about the exact song that is now like agreed upon as the worst song of all time.
Is that agreed upon? I don't know. I feel like there's discord on that question. The worst song I like, which I actually think is a bad song, is the cover of Falling Down, the Tom Waits song, but it's done by Scarlett Johansson.
Oh, it's terrible.
Yeah. But
why would she try to do that?
She did a whole album. I guess she was trying to break into music and singing, and she sucks at it. I mean, her voice isn't bad per se, it's just very monotone. But Falling Down is the one song where, for whatever reason, whoever produced this did an A+ job. It works. The monotone works. She's like, I've gone 500 miles and I see a halo. It's just kind of like this dead-eyed, like, very even sort of chanting, and it works beautifully in that one song. And then the rest of that album is trash. They don't even do the I talk about Tom Waits too much on the show, but there's that song Anywhere I Lay My Head that at the end has like a little jig thing. They take that out. It's not in there, which is a real letdown. But
I love having a podcast where I can talk about Tom Waits with my boys, because I consistently have dated women who are like, as a rule, they're like, you stop talking about Tom Waits to me. Like, it's been pointed out as I've brought this up in my life that it's probably not even as much that's a me thing as much as that is a men and women thing, arguably. Not to be reductive about gender for a moment. I'm sure everyone can have opinions about this who is not, but it's a lot of women do not like Tom Waits.
Really? I didn't know
It's
that.
very-
Okay.
I think it's like a go in your garage and listen to this shit with your fucking neon beer signs type thing going on. I mean, it's
Mm.
like alcohol-y sort of music. For some reason, a lot of women do not seem to be down with his Cookie Monster ass voice. And if I'm wrong, fucking sound off in the comments. Hit us up in the Discord. Email us poddamnamerica@gmail.com. This is a thing I've noticed, and I don't do men are like this, women like this, or like etc. comedy, but it does seem that there is a Jordan Peterson-esque nature, a natural order to the genders when it comes to the music of one Tom Waits.
I could see that. He definitely taps into a view of masculinity that, or like, kind of a mythos that seems cool to a lot of men, probably more so than women, or it's like it's a type of behavior and vibe to emulate, and that women don't have as many sort of avatars for. But I
Except
got
for
into
Scarlett Johansson, apparently.
yeah, right, Scarlett Johansson. Like, or maybe she hates him and she just did this, and maybe that's why she sounds so bad on the album. Is just
Mm.
like she's like this is the only artist who would relinquish the rights to their music to Scarlett Johansson because everyone else knew that it would be a disaster. And Tom Waits was like, "Oh, let's try that. It's gonna sound so bad it'll be good." And he was right for about one song, but presumably she likes him. I also got on Tom Waits because my older sister was a Tom Waits head, and there was she went when she went away to college. She had like a cabinet upstairs in her. She lived in an attic, and she kept all her CDs in this little cupboard. And I used to sneak up there after she had moved away, so I really didn't need to do any sneaking, but I still, I felt kind of burglar-esque, and I took a lot of CDs, including I believe Rain Dogs. But great, great actor. He's in some stuff. Down by Law, I believe, and I'm pretty sure he is in, or maybe he
Burglar-esque.
just, yeah. It's the way of the burglar. Um, I'm pretty sure he's in Night on Earth, which is a Jim Jarmusch movie about like a bunch of scenes that happen all over the world.
I get
Yeah.
so excited when Tom Waits is in a movie. He's always like it feels like he's not supposed to be in movies. Oh, but he's such a strange character. What's he gonna do? He's Renfield in Bram Stoker's Dracula. Excellent. I'm reading Dracula right now, so it just occurred to me. He's in
Oh.
Buster Scruggs, plays a guy like panning for gold. There's a really good vignette he's in. He's in the fucking Outsiders when he's like real young. He's just like
Oh,
kind of a
right.
there's a ton of like famous actors that are just background greasers in that movie. It's really bizarre. There's a
Yeah.
Tom Cruise with huge oil hair, Johnny Bravo hair going on.
Right.
He's everywhere, man.
Yeah, he is. We're talking movies today, and speaking of addicts,
Mhm.
I've been kind of Anne Frank pilled. Been watching a lot of Anne Frank movies.
I've been meaning to talk to you about this, Sanders. You're
Do you
addicted
think it's
to Anne
concerning?
Frank. Yeah, you have an Anne Frank problem.
It's
Frankly speaking, we need to have a frank discussion about your addiction to Anne Frank.
What if I was like, all right, we got to talk about Anne Frank, because what if I wanted to do a whole podcast about Anne Frank because I thought she was Helen Keller, who was like an anarchist and stuff.
Mhm.
I'm sure Anne Frank would have grown into having good politics, I guess. Definitely an anti-fascist, to say nothing else.
I would hope so.
But yeah, but there's a whole canon of movies I watched though. The Attic. Speaking of Attic and movies, which is about, this is an interesting take on it. It was not about Anne Frank so much. She was a character in it, but the real main character was Meep,
Meep,
Meep, which is the name.
the
I know that's
Roadrunner.
Meep. I mean, I guess there was an avian quality to Mary Steenburgen, and who plays Meep, who is the woman, I guess, the secretary of Otto Frank, who is she helps hide the family in this
Oh,
attic.
this is Anne Frank extended universe stuff where they're trying to
Yeah,
expand the IP to make more content. Wow.
exactly. Yeah, and I'm surprised. I think there's going to be more of it because this has been a whole to do over the past couple of years. Is they're trying to find out, they're trying to prove definitively who ratted them out. And it turns, I mean, according to the Anne Frank house, it's basically impossible to pin down whoever squealed. But I believe one of Meep's in-laws or relatives had Nazi sympathies and yelled at somebody or yelled at Meep or somebody like, "Go hang out with the Jews." So they could have squealed. They could have
Is that
been
is
this.
that where you got that thing you've been saying so much lately?
What I've been saying?
Go hang out with the Jews.
Go hang out.
I know we said we wouldn't talk about it on mic, but you know how you say that all the time.
I say in a positive way because some of my best friend, really, my girlfriend is Jewish, but you can't pin it out. I mean, there was one guy apparently who was just selling out other Jewish people in Amsterdam at the time. May have been him, or it may have been. This is my favorite theory, and sorry to be so um, lighthearted about such a macabre and disturbing subject, but is it? Do you think it's possible someone just saw them through the window? Because they had windows, right? That would be the most thrilling part of it to be, because if you're stuck in that attic for years, if you are seen through the window, it could be over. So it must have been so thrilling to just put a hand out, put a finger out over the window and be, and toy with death essentially. But it's possible that one of the Franks or the other family
Mhm.
was seen in a window, or there was just like Nazi was investigating that building for some reason. Um, but it was also Otto's office, or it's like the building he operated out of. I'm pretty sure he owned a sausage seasoning company, and just up and disappeared one day. I guess if they're looking for Otto, they just checked it out. But because if that's the case, then they did last a pretty long time. It was about 2 years.
I like the idea that maybe they were doing like shadow puppets on one night, and then someone was
Mhm.
like, "That is not a reindeer. That is a human hand." I don't know.
Yeah.
Listen, guys, it's been 80 years. I know this shit's going on, but it's tame in comedy at this point to make jokes about World War II. Get over it.
And
You
Frank.
woke, triggered. We're an alt-right podcast now. We're trying to figure out how to make more money, so we're going down that road again. It's an
We're
alt-right
getting
podcast.
Anne Frank. We could just be an Anne Frank podcast. This is just going to be my obsession for the next week or two. That's just how it is.
That's fair.
I
I have a
yeah.
haircut this week because we're Nazis now. I cut my hair to look more respectable. I'm sorry, you were saying something?
Oh no, I was just going to keep talking about the attic of it all, how cool it is with the fake door and the bookcase. But we can move on to your haircut. It looks
It
very nice.
sounds
I
like
got
you
one
have
too.
a lot to say about Anne Frank, so I think I'm going to have to just cut you off so that we don't indulge your obsession. My obsession right now is a video game called Blasphemous. I've been playing. You know what? Let's get into our obsessions right now. I'm playing this video game called Blasphemous, which is a Metroidvania. It's like a Castlevania type game. It's very similar to Castlevania, honestly. But it's your character is called the Penitent One, and he has like the pyramid head helmet kind of thing from Silent
Penitent?
Hill. The
What does that mean?
Penitent One.
Penitent.
So here's the thing. It's very similar to like these gothic kind of horror games like Dark Souls and stuff that are medieval and that are very lore heavy. But it's just Catholicism is like the theme, and
Oh, nice.
like the spooky ass kind of origins of all the saints having to do with like their parts of their bodies and stuff like that. And I simultaneously learned a bunch about that just happenstance while I was kind of getting into this video game. So now I'm like way into it. Because apparently the way it works is that in when Christianity was new, and I am a complete like beginner learning about theology. So if I'm wrong, and I definitely am, yell at us in the comments, poddamnamerica@gmail.com, email us directly, Discord, all that stuff. But it's my understanding that the broad strokes here are that when Christianity was new during like ancient Rome, it's the new thing about it is monotheism, right? And so it was, they were persecuted and they made him fucking fight against lions and all that stuff you hear about. But Christianity started to kind of spread after a while, and it was very like the saint thing is from when Christianity was trying to grow, and they were like new Christian like franchises would pop up in villages, and then the main blob of Christianity was like, even though it's anti-idolatry, it was like, well, you know what, let them do this for a while though, because if they do it for a while, they'll recruit a lot of people and then we can absorb them into like the main project. So that's where like this idea of the saint comes from, because the saint, like, you can't have somebody be a god, right? There's only the one God. But you do want people to like rally around, these like demigod type things. So you come up with this idea of saints, which are like people that are like, oh, they're like a conduit for God, right? So when that would happen, and there would be like a mini martyr, like a mini boss Jesus somewhere, they sort of would get into these arguments about whether that person who did this thing is or isn't a saint. So they came up with all these weird rules for how to decide if someone was a saint, and one of them is like something supposedly that proves you were a saint is you like when you die, your body takes longer to decompose, which retroactively, scientifically, people kind of figured out like, yeah, there's just natural conditions that like cause that to happen, but no one understood that.
Specifically saints to decompose.
No. That cause a body to either decompose fast or not. But it's arbitrary. Like, it has to do with just something going on in the environment that the body dies in. But that is what decided the arguments that whoever was having about this guy is or isn't a saint, right? So they couldn't explain why a body was decomposing slower than other bodies that they've like had observed. So the explanation is, that's this thing. I can't remember what it's called. But there's some kind of term called like Vestas energy or something. It sounds like it's from a video game. And they said that like that's what that is, right? And they said that like the smell, there's like a smell and you can smell it. And somebody else figured out like, oh, that smell is like, ketosis happening or something like that. Like some kind of weird starvation chemical thing happens, chemical response. And so it's really interesting, because then that turns into there's like, I read Brothers Karamazov last year, and there's a plot line where they're trying to fucking argue whether he's a saint or not, and he that is how they figure it out in the monastery is, they watch his body and they're like, see, he's decomposing, he's not a saint or whatever. But that's all in the video game. And also in learning about this, I also learned something really fucked up, which is that there is a pretty recent saint. I'm gonna look him up right now because I can't remember his exact name.
When did they stop doing that? Was there a point where like, we gotta stop doing saints? No.
No. Here's the latest one is from 2006. His name is Carlo Acutis, a young Italian man. Brace yourself for this because it is fucked up. Who died in 2006, is popularly referred to as the quote patron saint of the internet and quote God's influencer, due to his use of technology to spread his Catholic faith. So he hasn't been declared a saint by the Catholic Church yet, but they think it's going to happen. You think he's going to be canonized like this year, making him the first millennial saint. This ain't your grandma's saint. Yeah. So this like weird millennial kid is going to be on like candles and shit if they canonize him this year. And he is the direct descendant of all that fucked up corpse shit I was just talking about.
But he died in 2006.
Yeah, so you get called a saint retroactively after death.
Okay.
It's not like a
So
night where they like the
yeah,
queen
yeah.
makes there's no living saints walking around.
Right. But he was using fora and message boards to put Catholicism in people's minds. I guess I don't what would you even have done? MySpace? He was using MySpace to promote the
Actually,
Catholic
yeah.
way.
If it's 2006, he's like on Friendster and shit.
Yeah.
AOL Instant Messenger away message was a bunch of like ASCII of crucifixes and
I
stuff.
mean, like any good millennial who's entrepreneurial, he probably convinced the church this was having way more of an impact than it was. Like this MySpace page has been viewed by 667 people.
Maybe he
Therefore
was
making a
on.
statement.
Maybe wait, was the Pope a Nazi at that point? The Pope keeps flipping between being a Nazi and a cool guy.
Yeah, 2005 was when Ratzenberger took over. So yeah.
I bet Ratzenberger found the millennial pope on 4chan is what happened, and he's like, this guy's doing a great job on this r slash whatever the fuck / poll, the one that
Penitence.
turned into the
Penitence.
Now
R/slash
he's the penitent,
penitence.
or now he's a boss in Blasphemous. I guess he's not the penitent one. I'm the penitent one.
Well, that
Well,
makes me
that's not like
wonder. The Pope who quit, Ratzenberger, is he? I don't think he's alive anymore. But was that? Do you remember figuring out why that was? I never got a good explanation. I assume it was some combination of him being a Nazi and the pedophilia scandal. And so it seemed at the time it was like, oh, he wants to do this, which seems odd. But
I don't know. I mean, quitting your job is a pretty cool thing. So I think I never really looked that into it because I thought like, yeah, he's over it. He's done. He's burnt out, right? He's like Mark Maron right now. I'm just not doing WTF anymore. I don't fucking need to.
yeah.
You know? But that might be something to look into. Why did he actually quit? You know, is this connected to Epstein and stuff like that? All the way back.
I think
I saw
there's
a picture of
some.
Epstein with James Brown today. Everyone's connected.
Oh no.
Yeah.
That's sad. That's almost worse than Chomsky, but it makes me want to believe that some of them were just actually talking about fundraising or whatever.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Okay.
But
spoiler alert. We're gonna talk about a movie
well,
that's.
I had a take though for real quick because you mentioned the young people
Please go.
or the millennials, and I read an interesting thing about a Zoomer who is taking the world by storm, as it were. I didn't know about this guy until I picked up a copy of this magazine, went to an event for Clocked Out magazine, which actually, the Antifada, they talk with the publishers of this.
This is gonna be a guy named like Big Dick or something.
Close. Roy is his name.
That's pretty close.
And his last name, I should stipulate, no relation between myself and Chungin Roy Lee is his name. Chungin, and he's 21.
Big Chungus.
And yeah, he got expelled from Colombia for his entrepreneurial nature in creating this maybe he would call it a service or a platform or whatever, but it is basically like ChatGPT, but it goes even further and just helps you through life. It's called Cluely, and he got expelled because he was, kids were using it to cheat, and he's very openly like, yeah, you should cheat because it's almost nihilistic. But if you talk to him, as they did, the publishers, they had an interview with this guy, and this magazine is like a leftist magazine. It's very critical of AI, but they talked to him about like what his philosophy is essentially, and he says he's not political at all. He says he's pro-choice, and that's his only belief. And then they're like, "We'll say more about that. Why are you pro-choice?" He's like, "Oh, because I don't want to have a kid." And So that's his only professed belief. But he says he is optimistic about technology. And he says if you're proposing that we could put superhuman intelligence in a box, we can just ask it, hey, how can I cure cancer? How can I cure Alzheimer's? And it could tell me how to do that. I would say I think that'd be pretty fucking cool. And then they say to him, okay, but what if it decides that it doesn't want to help you? What if it decides that it doesn't want to be you to be its master anymore and it's smarter than you? And then he says, then I'll be the servant of the AI. And the world that they're proposing would be so different in this scenario that this this is literally God inside a box. He wonders maybe you would want to be the servant of AI at this point. He says that the only thing he's proposing right now is that the world we live in is it's really bad for a lot of people. There's starvation, mass homelessness, and America has all this income inequality. Not a happy society, not a utopia. And the way to get to utopia is not static change and resistance against the things that are disrupting the status quo. The way to utopia is embracing it fully and having everyone full understanding about it, so you'll have the marketplace of opinions that will decide, hey, this is the safest route. But if no one's contributing and everyone is trying to stop change, then we'll just live in the same world full of crackheads for the next 20 years. And I don't think anyone wants that, is what he says. So he's basically saying, if you are, I mean, it's basic. He's kind of more of a parodic version of the, tech barons, but he's doing it in a more like kind of a hacker ethos type of way. But he genuinely thinks like the way we view intelligence is going to change. Writing is going to change. He compares it to the calculator. How, at the time, maybe people were like, hey, you're losing something by not doing all these like really basic equations every time you need to do a complex math problem. And he says that's going to be the case for writing or having thoughts, essentially, which to me, that's a very disturbing prospect. But I'm also in 2025 and not and a middle-aged person as well in 2025 almost. So yeah, for what he's proposing, I would love to say he's wrong and this is ridiculous and absurd, but it's totally consistent like with the world that we live in. So very interesting interview. He talks about Hinge and essentially holds this up as like, look, this is just, no one has a problem with Hinge, do they? And the interviewer's like, yeah, a lot of people don't like Hinge. And he just dismisses that and is like, this is positive for society. This tells you that you will live the happiest life with this person, and this is good. Just like everything can be kind of quantified, and all of these, and maybe that I really do hope he's wrong about, is that we're just going to dispense with having human connection and meet cutes essentially, and everything's going to be sort of preordained by the data, which seems highly improbable, but that this is kind of the logical conclusion of a lot of this AI stuff, which, maybe we shouldn't be as threatened by it as we are, because another thing I'm starting to realize is, and this was from a discussion with the publishers of this and this other guy that Andy did, is that like the AI is just kind of measuring the stuff we already have out there, and it's measuring us, and we kind of are it already, by design. So it's not, there's the singularity is not going to happen. Essentially, we just have to decide to what degree we're comfortable with this type of technology taking over society. But the real underlying issue is the economic system we're living under, and that's what we should be sort of focused on changing.
Man, okay. So you know what? I was kind of feeling out of it this week and was like, I'm gonna talk about this movie and stuff, but I don't know. I just wasn't sure where the podcast was gonna go, but you kind of hit on something I've been reading about recently that is perfect for this. So you ever fuck with Marshall McLuhan?
Uh-huh. I had a
Uh,
book, the massage. What it was like
the medium is the message. Is
yeah,
exactly
but
what I
for
was saying.
some
But
reason I had a copy that was spelled the medium is the massage, and it
yeah,
had a lot of like animated stuff in it. It was pretty cool. I left it on the bus once, unfortunately, but yeah.
yeah. So that book has a lot of like illustrations and stuff in it. The medium is the massage thing is when he wrote that book, it came back with a misprint. It's supposed to say the medium is the
Ah.
message, and he said no. That also works, and so like they just printed a bunch of them with the medium is the massage, because what he said was that yeah, no, that the medium massages the ideas into like you, the way it
Mm.
is formed or whatever. So he said, no, it's perfectly fucking, that actually works better than my title or whatever. Um, but he like talks about form a lot, and I've been kind of obsessed with it. I'm kind of form pilled, I guess. Um, I keep getting into like this conversation about the internet and about like transportation and stuff. And I just watched Videodrome, and we're gonna put it up on the feed. But we did a podcast, me and Kate Terry on her show, Thanks for the Memories, about Videodrome and David Cronenberg's film Videodrome, and the medium is the message, and how arguably there's a character in Videodrome that's probably based on Marshall McLuhan. There's a guy named Brian Oblivion with an
Uh,
apostrophe. And his thing is sort of like he gets really into television, and every instance he's in the movie, it's just they wheel in a TV and it's him like recorded talking on it. And then if you haven't seen Videodrome, I'm sorry, it's a very old movie. You should watch it. It's one of my favorite films. But spoiler, turn off the podcast. This isn't even that big of a spoiler for Videodrome, but like it turns out Brian Oblivion is like dead, and it's like he just recorded himself. He uploaded himself, and he says like he's like, I know I'm dead, like, but you're not really dead when you're on this many screens. Like he's very into like transhumanism or whatever via technology. But anyways, the medium is the message. Like it says all he's like really interesting little lines that get repeated over and over again. Like a wheel is an extension of the foot. The glasses are an extension of the eye. Technology is an extension of the self, is kind of the way he puts it. And like with how technology is formed, though, the form it takes, I think, to expand upon his ideas a little bit. And I think what they're kind of arguing in Videodrome, listen to the podcast if you want to hear the full fleshed out concept here. But um, it's not as though technology just sort of like continues on a progressive line. I think that tech guys, rationalists, um, nerds that live within like capitalist realism essentially think that. They think that
right.
like we don't need to worry about all this like class stuff. The progression of the future is just technology just improving and just changing everything, right? Which is like silly, but we live in a country that's are dominated by that thought. We live in a world that's dominated by that thought, arguably. And you have to, be a fucking class warrior nerd to like see that it's bigger than that. But like, so let's talk about transportation, right? Cars. This is something Parenti talks about at the end of the fucking book we talked about, the end of Black Shirts and Reds. The automobile industry, that's not just like the logical conclusion of trying to move faster, right? As a collective species, it's an output of capitalism, of the mode of production, right? Like the reason that cities are laid out the way they are is because there was a like hegemony, there was a amount of control that like the Firestone Tire Company had and stuff like that. There's an actual conspiracy like case where Firestone was found guilty of undermining public transportation in Los Angeles. So we have, this car dominated public transit system. In other countries, they have more trains and stuff like that, right? So what do we have right now in America as a way of like evolving? We have electronic vehicles. Well, sure, cool. That is a way of, continuing on this road system that we've set up, uh, and trying to solve for the energy sort of crisis part of this. But like an electric vehicle isn't the opposite of a gas vehicle. A train is more arguably the opposite of a gas vehicle, right? So like when we get technological advancements that happen within the capitalist system, the form is still shaped by the capitalist system.
Mm-hmm.
And like, so you can also see this is why I think Videodrome is kind of like the argument it's making is like, become an electric vehicle. Sure, you'd become a guy with a gun arm. Like you co-opted the fucking Videodrome technology. But then you have to transcend the form. It's like the end of the movie. You have to like transcend the flesh or whatever. That's kind of the end of that film. I think at the end of the movie, it's saying you got to become a train. So move past. You're an EV right now. You'll become a train. Anyways, like the internet, right? The internet is this thing that, like in the beginning, people had utopian ideas about, right? And it was kind of like unregulated in a lot of ways. But 2025, now we're living in a situation where it has clearly been co-opted and captured by by corporations and corporate interests and capitalism and whatnot, right? And the technology, the websites that we use, like Twitter is like, that's not just like a thing that came out of nowhere. It's not shaped by like the just freedom of the internet. It's like they're designed to to move information a certain way, to sell things, to start fights. The only smart thing that Elon Musk has ever said, in my opinion, is that Twitter is PvP social media. Like it incentivizes this like this conflict and stuff like that, because it's, for whatever reason, that's good for his ends.
Yeah.
So with AI, the problem I have with people like this guy you're describing, who kind of like just kind of have this like flat like, look, this is, everything was always leading to this,
Right.
is that it is the form. The form is the message, right? The medium is the message. It's shaped by capitalism. Like I think that technology in some different shape could be like useful if it saw people as like an ends and not a means. But when you get to these conclusions, like saying like I mean, fucking like taking this to the conclusion of like dating and trying to what do you call it, like consolidate
Quantify.
no, like consolidate the process of dating. Like what is the fucking tech word I'm looking for? You make it super efficient or whatever. Like that way of thinking,
Streamline.
streamline, that's what it is. That presupposes that the point of dating is like the end point. And like, sorry to be a fucking 8th grade English teacher here or whatever, but like the journey isn't the point, right? Like, do I want to take out the part where I meet someone and don't know whether it's going to work and all that stuff? Like maybe that's part of it, right? Maybe the point isn't to match people as efficiently as possible. Maybe matching isn't also like, as an end goal, the point of dating. Maybe that is byproduct of the world being organized into like productive workers and stuff like that, and families that might not be the fucking point, depending on who you are. I'm not gonna go all fucking freaky Frederick Ingalls and argue that it is or isn't or whatever. But it's like, at the very least, not definitely the thing. Like there's a lot of premises here that like rationalist people build their arguments on and take as givens when they talk about the utility of artificial intelligence. Like, and those premises are where you need to argue with them. Stop. Hey, maybe this is all, your argument works if we all agree that the point of art is to produce as technically efficient product as possible for commodification on the market. Okay, but I don't agree with that. I think the point of art is doing, like, the getting to make it as a human act, right? I don't care that a robot, it's like if you made the point of art is like, for us, we're the ends, we get to make it. So like, the way I always put it is like, would I make a robot to fuck my wife and eat a sandwich? Like, no, those are the things I want to do, right? That seems to be what they're doing with this stuff. So like, I don't know. I mean, hey, maybe you would,
A lot,
man.
a lot of guys out there wouldn't mind a robot that eats your sandwich, if you know what I mean.
Oh yeah, brother. Let's put on some Tom Waits. Wah, wah, wah. Yeah, I don't know. So that's with that sort of thing. I'm like, I'm also not 100% like a Luddite about it, where I'm like, there's a lot of tech takes, there's a lot of AI takes that I don't agree with. From like, I'd argue that's like a liberal take where we defend ourselves as artists as productive. That's also bad in my opinion. I'm sure I'm like repeating myself, should have said in the show, um, but I think the form, like, just look at the form. It's going to continue to shape itself as a thing that produces commodities, and that's something to keep an eye on and to correct for, in my opinion, or at least that's an argument for correcting the material base of society, is that it'll produce better technology that then serves a more egalitarian material base. I don't know. Do you want to talk about weapons?
Sure. Speaking
All
of
right.
movies, art, and
Yeah.
weapons.
I have my art show where I talk about bullshit like this with Louisa has been on hiatus for some time, so we have to do Why You Mad in here. We have to talk about a movie and extrapolate things from it. Spoiler alerts: if you haven't seen the film, it's new, so that's probably some people. If you don't care, keep listening. But just wanted to throw that out there because I'll try not to ruin the end of it. But the premise, it's kind of a mysterious thing, so you may or may not be familiar with what the premise is. I don't know. I wanted to talk about this movie because I heard a lot of hype about it, and I kind of like, I feel like there's like this thing where people say, like, people would argue it's kind of unoriginal to just watch things because they're popular, like artistically, or like check out
Well,
things because they're popular.
I mean, it seems like the very definition of unoriginal, but I don't think there's anything. I don't know. I think it's okay to be unoriginal sometimes.
I think that, like, I believe certain people's opinions enough to, like, if I have a certain amount of time in my week and I can go watch one movie, I actually will make a decision based on that, because if things have enough hype around them, you can kind of get a whiff of what they're gonna be like by who's talking about it and stuff. I was just thinking about this when I was watching it, because I was like, why am I watching this movie? And on some level, when that happens, I get a little bit skeptical too, because I'm like, there's a lot of hype, a lot of, like, all the right people are talking about this film. That kind of feels astroturfed to me. It's a little hip, and it kind of feels like, I know how marketing works. Like, they probably artificially on some level created buzz about this, right? So I almost got a little skeptical about it. I mean, that's how advertising works. It's not like a secret.
Yeah, but if it didn't, you don't think there would also be hype about movies that are good or art that's of relevance to you?
I don't know, because, like, there probably is stuff that goes under the radar all the time and you just don't know about it. But
Yeah.
it also probably doesn't, like, have as much production and stuff like that. That stuff like
Well,
this.
that's something I've noticed. I feel like it's kind of gone away. Is like the unknown movie or band or whatever. Like, people don't care as much if you're like, oh, I found this amazing band or movie or show that no one else is watching or experiencing. Like, it feels like now there's more incentive to just view everything that are, because it's like everything can be like that anyway. Most people in the world don't know what Weapons is or whatever your favorite band is, because no monoculture anymore.
I don't know. I disagree with film. I think that's definitely true of music, but with movies, there's like, I mean, there's a million indie films, but that, like, there's the studio system. The thing about music is, like, anyone can kind of make it at this point. Like, it doesn't.
Yeah.
There's not a high ticket price to, like, make music. There's not a high entry level. The musical instruments are relatively affordable in the process of putting together a band or a project or whatever. You can edit at home, but, like, to make a movie, there's still, like, you have to get a budget together, and there's only a certain amount of studios and resources, and
Yep.
there's, like, pretty small, like recognizable name. Like there's at any given time there's a certain amount of famous sort of people working within it that's part of it is like the social credit of going. This was produced by who the fuck produced this movie? I remember recognizing something in the credits, like somebody famous or whatever.
Harvey Weinstein.
Yes, and good for him. No, but I don't know. I'm a little skeptical because I know that like is something there's still some artificial nature to it here, I guess. I don't know. But like, and I'm not sure about this director either. I'm not sure how I feel about the movie. I really enjoyed it. I went up and down a few times watching it, like, because I like horror, and I like horror that's about stuff. I like the elevated horror that's, kind of post Hereditary been a thing. The A24 horror. But I kind of can't figure out what this movie was about. It definitely is about something, but I read a little bit about it, and the guy Zach Krieger that made it, who also made Barbarian, he kind of made it, and he says he made it about Trevor Moore from Whitest Kids You Know, who he was friends with, about his death and about like his feelings about his close friend's death and his alcoholism. And then the movie got made, and it went in a specific direction after he started from there, and it's this like allegory about something involving like this small community and these children that go missing and stuff. And a lot of the responses to it apparently argue that it's about mass shootings or about school shootings. And he said no, it isn't. And that's like a really interesting question, because then you get into like, well, does this intention matter? And he said in this interview I read that it does not. No, it doesn't matter. Like it is kind of about, like, even though I wrote it and I came up with the metaphor, it's about this one thing. If there's other stuff in it, that's part of art or whatever. So it like arguably kind of is or isn't. But there are multiple themes that seem like they're reflecty in it. And with that being like stated by the guy who wrote it, I don't really know what to make of it, because for a moment I actually started to think that it was making some very far right arguments, but then I started to think, well, maybe it's like it's going to turn that on its head. And the reason I say that is because the premise of the film is there's this school teacher in this weird like small town that's kind of unnamed, and all of her children disappear one day, all of her students except for one, and they all apparently run out of their homes in the middle of the night, and their parents, a lot of them have Ring cameras, so they have this like this like suburban fortress mentality about their homes and their children. And then the worst thing ever happens, which is they can see on the Ring camera, the thing that they use for this, that their kids all ran in the middle of the night somewhere. And what's really weird is that they're all doing the Naruto run, which is like, do you know about that?
Oh, I was hearing about Naruto in relation to the movie, but I didn't realize that's the style of running.
It's like a really kind of aged internet joke at this point. Like,
Oh, okay.
there's an anime where a guy runs like that, and then they're like this joke about like the neurodivergent kid at your school running like that kind of has been a thing for a long.
Yes. I had someone say to me once, actually, like after he got to know me a little bit, he thought I was, and he used the R word, so I guess I can use it, but I won't. He thought I was R-worded because I ran, because of my running style, because I didn't I didn't do this. I didn't do the neurotypical performance of moving your arms while you run. If you hold your arms in place, that to people seems neurodivergent for whatever reason. When it is, I guess
Oh,
maybe
like
it's less.
T2000.
I guess so, but I guess is it more aerodynamic to like move your arms at the same time while you're running, or it's because it seemed to me, I still don't get it. I do it now, but it seemed to me perfectly efficient to just have your arms at your side as you're running.
That might be one of those things where like we're all wrong and you're right. I've never thought about why you do that when you run, but now I'm going really far back to thinking like the first time I ever ran and thinking, am I supposed to move my arms like this? Like, this happens. There's a joke on 30 Rock about this when Jack Donaghy is like going to be on camera for the first time. And he's like, how do I, like, he's doing the thing you do when you're like acting where you're like, well, how do I stand? And how do I walk? And he starts walking with his arms straight down like that because the self-conscious nature of acting is making him like think consciously about everything. Uh, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and say you might be right. That might be bullshit that people move their arms. It feels like it's doing something, like it's shifting weight or something, but I
It
don't.
at least like gives your arms some exercise as you're working your legs, but yeah, I don't know.
Is that just what it's for though?
Yeah, I don't know. I remember someone saying you go faster, but that seems weird to me too.
It feels like it's shifting weight or something. I don't know. Well, these kids, they're doing but I feel like the Naruto run joke on the internet was that like, oh, everybody went to school with a weird kid who just like pretended he was an anime character, like it was like to look like you're flying or something. It's really bizarre and I don't know. There's too much comedy in the movie for me to be like they accidentally did that. That seems like kind of deliberate, but I don't know what the fuck it means. So anyways, the kids all disappear, and then you get this really interesting, like Rashomon Pulp Fiction-esque, like second act of the film where it just goes through these chapters and goes from a different character's perspective for like a handful of like 6 or 7 chapters in a row of like what happens over this short period of time. That leads to all these characters meeting up in this house or whatever. And really great acting performances, really great storytelling. It's cool. I had a really good time watching it. But I'm not gonna like just go through the whole movie. That would be annoying. But a couple notes, I guess. There's like this main character, the what's her face? The school teacher lady, Miss Gandy.
Julia Garner, yeah. Who
Yeah.
I found out today, she is in 2 separate movies with media with a Culkin brother and is paired with him. I think what's it, Rory, the guy with the long hair? Yeah, Rory Culkin. She's in a movie with him from 2012 called, what is it called? But Electric something, but she's Electric Children, but she's also in Waco, the TV series, and in both cases she is our love interests with Rory Culkin. And it's not like they're a Bennifer or George Clooney, Julia Roberts. Like people aren't going to specifically see this chemistry, as far as I know. It's just funny how they both have wound up this way. They do have real chemistry. But anyway, that's an aside. He's not in the movie.
That's interesting though. She's a really specific type of person. She's very attractive, but she's like she's got extremely like specific, unique facial features and stuff. And I could see her with a Culkin because they also look very gaunt.
Yes.
I guess I was dodging calling her gaunt, but she's hot. She's just gaunt, hot. Sorry,
she
that's
looks
just
a
the way
little,
it is.
I don't know. She's 30, which really surprised me. She definitely appears younger than that. But she's is not Southern, interestingly. She kind of has a bit of a twang in this movie, but I remember being very sort of feeling cognitive dissonance when I heard her talk for the first time after watching her on Ozark, where she does a very good Southern accent.
Oh, that's where I know her from. I hated Ozark. God, don't have time to get into it.
Her accent. Say what you will about the show, she really nails her character. She's a good actor.
Oh yeah, she laid it on really thick. I remember.
Yeah.
That's bananas. Okay, whatever, Ozark. But like she has this fucked up thing happen and then is scrutinized by all the parents because it's weird. It's like, why is her class? Is she involved, in the incident somehow? There's gonna be like this kind of small town paranoia about it. So she like,
yeah. It's very reminiscent of the Columbine mother of
yeah,
and Eric. I think it's Eric. No, Dylan. Miss Klebold is hounded years later by the people of Littleton. They blame her for the death sometimes of their children in a way that's understandable, but also very unfair and just kind of sad because they're not going to bring their kids back, but they do have some way to offload their emotions, and it's on this one individual.
yeah. And I thought, man, that's a brilliant way to like start the story. You start from her perspective. You don't know it's going to be split up into chapters yet, so it kind of just feels like it's going to be about her, but it expands from there. But she kind of she it's pretty clear that she's relapsing on some sort of drinking problem. I don't know if she was like sober, but she copes like by going to the liquor store and getting some fucking vodka. And she's like, driving around and pouring it into like fast food drink containers and stuff like that throughout this part of the story. And like hooks up with this ex of hers who's a cop who is sober and is also like kind of ambiguously, in a relationship or something. And you just sort of see these people start to come apart, right? And it turns into not an individual story, but like a collective, like community thing of people coming apart in like a almost like a Twin Peaksy sort of way or something. Like they already kind of all had a thread loose, and then this like tragedy escalates everything and sort of shows you how alone people actually are in communities where they don't trust their neighbors and have ring cameras and stuff like that. And there's like pretty cool chapter of this section about this homeless kid who's being harassed by the cop character and who is just sort of scrounging for like stuff to take to the pawn shop so he can cop more drugs and stuff like that. He appears in the background of like other people's stories and stuff. And he I don't know. I liked him a lot. I think that okay, I'll put a pin in him because, anyways, yada yada yada. There's a few of these. There's a really great Whitest Kids You Know reference where there's just a scene where this gay couple is sitting down to have to eat like dinner and watch TV, and that one of them is making dinner for the other, and he prepares a plate with 7 hot dogs on it, which is a Whitest Kids You Know sketch like reference thing. It's like an Easter egg. So there's like stuff like that that's like deliberately in there. But anyways, yada yada yada. Big spoiler, right? We get to what is going on, what is causing all of this, and it's introduced in this character named Aunt Gladys, who's the one surviving kid's like aunt. And she is weird looking and is a witch, I guess. Is kind of like it's kind of like it's probably a lot of like sinners.
Spoiler, yeah, but
I said spoilers at the beginning.
Spoiler, okay, cool.
I said it like a lot. The reveal is like the genre of the film, like pretty far into it. You kind of go, oh, okay, this is like
something mystical is afoot.
Yeah, and it's like I don't know. That was kind of interesting because on the one hand, when you have horror, like people often part of it is you rely on classic genres and then build on them. So in a way, this is like a really creative new interpretation of this witch concept. And in a lot of other ways, this isn't like a genre thing. This is like a movie that has to lay all this groundwork and establish its own rules, because you slowly sort of understand how her like one ritual that is the method that like mind controls people works by watching her create these little like fetish object things, like for shaman shit, out of a twig and like a person's hair or whatever, and then do this bloodletting ritual that causes them to attack another person or whatever. And you finally go, oh, it's weapons. She makes weapons out of people or whatever. But she's a real fucking weird looking person. And so the first few times you see her, for whatever reason, she's like this like lady that's just sort of like the kid, Alex, the little kid, he's got parents, and he's got a little suburban nice house, and his dad is explaining, oh, your aunt, she's kind of got some problems, she's gonna come stay with us, right? And he's like, who is she? He's little off put by the whole thing, and the father goes, no, it'll be fine, yada yada yada. And then next thing you know, she's in the house and she takes over everyone, and she makes vegetables out of the fucking. She turns the parents into automatons and stuff, and she fills this space of like, when you have like a family member that isn't like put together, often an uncle or aunt, and they're going to be living on the couch for a while or something like that.
Yeah,
so she's like this external sort of thing, and then everything goes wrong from there. And when you meet her, she's kind of become like a meme, like, in the week or two since this has come out. She's got a really specific getup that she uses to go into public, because she's kind of the witch, where she's in her natural form, is just like her hair's all falling out and stuff. So she puts on these wigs and these big weird glasses. But the other thing is that she puts like lipstick on like around her lips, and she looks like a clown kind of, and she sort of appears in people's like nightmares and stuff, and is this supernatural presence. But I guess the reason I'm like working towards this is because I'm like, is she supposed to kind of invoke a drag queen, because like there's this culture war thing in like conservative small towns with like queer people, is she like scary, because she's like weird in a way, and she looks like divine or something like that?
which is initially I mean, I think this is a butchering of Sylvia Federici's thesis, but the sort of the gist, as I understand it, is that that's kind of what witches were initially in Europe, was just like misfit women who they wanted to demonize in some way. And here in the 1600s, there's like, this is like a unwed, sort of unkempt woman who's just is again a way to offload blame for other psychoses and things.
Yeah. No, for real. I mean, there's a lot of types of people that like society sort of has more of a place for, to at least get by now, who like in a previous system or a previous iteration or whatever, would have been considered unproductive in certain ways and stuff, and scapegoated, and still are. But I think this is like, framing it in this way is like a good reminder of that or whatever. And so I'm kind of reading this and I'm like, okay, a bunch of children went missing, and there's like a queer person. Is that what this fucking story is? But if it was written kind of subconsciously, it might not be saying that that's what's happening in America. It might be saying that this is what America is dreaming, right? This is America's psyche, is that there's like this supernatural kind of external presence coming for your kids or whatever. And that depending on what the fucking intention there is, that could flip this from a hyper conservative movie to a hyper progressive one, just depending on what it's trying to say. But it just seemed to me like that had to be, on some level, that had to be why that's in there. There's just all this stuff where I'm like, can it be a coincidence? Or like, what does it mean if it doesn't mean that? Is it about gender? Is it about like, I don't know. That was my guess, I guess, as to why she's so weird.
Yeah, she was. Amy Madigan does an amazing job playing this aunt who is interviewed. The actor Amy Madigan's interviewed, and she's asked about the famous clip where I think maybe we talked about this on the Waterfront episode we did a while ago, but she was, along with Ed Harris, the actor sitting at the Academy Awards when Elia Kazan was granted the Lifetime Achievement Award, and there was all this applause, and they refused to clap because of his role in the Red Scare. But she does a great job. I read it as really a generational film because it's really about children and Gen Alpha, as it were, and we're kind of in a sense, especially in light of interviews like the one I just cited with this Cluley guy. We're kind of waiting with bated breath to see what this new generation, mostly Gen Alpha, but also Zoomers to an extent, what they end up like, because it could be very scary. They were kind of, in a way, whisked away for a while with COVID. They weren't in school. They weren't socializing with each other. They were kind of in a basement of sorts for a while, and they have physically come upstairs, but mentally it's anyone's guess. And in a way, you could blame the witch of the baby boomers. She is, a baby boomer, for creating this, putting them under this weird spell, because it's ultimately kind of a lot of stuff is the baby boomers' fault. But yeah, the millennials are all kind of like Julia Garner and the cop and all these other people who are, sort of trying to do the right thing, but are very conflicted and flawed in their own right. But yeah, I liked the movie. I don't, I'm not a very good critic, so it's hard for me to, and everything I've received from Kreger, I listened to, he did an interview with the last podcast on the left guys, and
Nice.
he's kind of just like, like a lot of artists are. He doesn't really, he does have a lot to say about it, but he doesn't really have much to articulate as far as the true meaning or essence. Although, he did say the thing about Trevor Moore. But I'll tell you, my problem with it is it takes place in Pennsylvania. And it's a horror movie. I think ultimately you can say, even though the beginning, yeah, I think you can say it's a horror movie.
Yeah, at the
Takes place
very
in
least.
Pennsylvania. Yeah. It's in this small town, and it doesn't, I feel like they should have taken more advantage of Pennsylvania, which is a very spooky state. If you've ever driven through Pennsylvania, they have those high hills that are by these like really spooky looking forests. If you drive through at night, it's very cinematic. It's this fog is coming across the road, and on others, it's a really narrow roads with tall ass trees on either side. And the towns have these spooky, weird Dutch names. I feel like he could have done more with that. And maybe, we don't know much about the witch's origins. But she could definitely, maybe she's Amish or something, they have Amish people in Pennsylvania. I wanted more of that. And also I did have to look away several times during the movie, which is not, that's just doesn't make it a bad movie. But if I'm, I don't think of myself as that squeamish, and then I see a movie like this, and it's like some of the shit is really grotesque, and I just,
Really?
yeah,
Like
like
what?
the cheese scraper on the guy's cheek, and just like the dude guts. The dude's like, the guy with the hot dogs when he gets killed. Just
Oh
his
yeah.
intestines and brain out on the pavement. That stuff really did gross me out. But
I thought it was
other,
cool.
I could see that, that was a little much for me. But still, I would still give it a thumbs up. It's not as good as Barbarian, in my opinion. Barbarian is hard to top. It was kind of cool to see Kreger developing like his own style as a filmmaker. Obviously, he's been doing stuff like this for a long time, but these movies are both tonally similar. They both have a lot of really funny moments. When the witch Amy Madigan asks for a bowl to drink
Yeah.
her water out of. That was hilarious, and she even says, like, "Oh, I've given up trying to explain it. I just do it." Um, yeah, Barbarian, though, they're both sort of, and I've noticed this also with Jordan Peele. Nope, is the all 3 are kind of like genre movies that, sort of leave you guessing as to what the conceit is. Um because yeah, you don't know what happened to these kids. That's the mystery. And then like little by little, it kind of becomes a zombie movie. But it's this sort of new era of zombie movies where I
Where
can't
they're
think of it off
fast.
the top of my head. Exactly. Yeah. The
Yeah.
fast zombie era. There's other movies like this that I know I've seen. Um, and I don't know what that's about. I guess we just got sick of the slow zombies and we needed something a little more with higher stakes. But it's yeah, all 3 of these are kind of like you don't really know until the last like third or so what the actual like premise of the uh villainy is.
See, like, I think I'm kind of a hater, honestly. I had a really good time watching this in the theater, but then like reading about it and like what the intention was and stuff, I kind of like I don't understand the hype really. It was cool, but there's this like distortion of sorts when things become celebrated, right? When it then everyone agrees this is like the best one and it feels different from when you experienced it as something that potentially has no link to uh like the social consensus or whatever like that. Like the first time I saw The Bear, it was new. No one I knew who had ever fucking heard of it, and I felt like I discovered something, right? And I remember like really liking it. And then by the time it's out now, it's obviously like become successful, and by nature of that, become like celebrated. And now I'm kind of annoyed by it, and it has this kind of weird thing where you're like, you don't like I wish the band was unknown so they'd be special and be my thing, kind of psychology going on. But like, so that's part of it. Part of it's just petty and personal, but um, part of like I I gotta be honest, if I had just stumbled upon this film and never met anyone who like knew it, I'd probably be like, I saw a pretty good weird movie a while back, but I don't know that I would put it where it exists right now in like the fucking conversation. And part of that is because like I remember there was like a lot of hype around Barbarian too for having some sort of meaning. And there are all these like almost meaningful moments in it, and there are all these like comedic moments in it. Like, I mean, the one that I remember from that movie is that stuck really hard is like when Justin Long is uh it like he's comes upon this home, and he's a stupid Airbnb douchebag, and so he's like got the tape measure out and he's like, what's the square footage? And he's backing into the basement measuring the square footage, and you're like, oh, what a great commentary on I don't know, Airbnbs in general. We all just kind of understand this direction of an idea to be a thing that feels good to punch. Like, I'm thinking about this as a comedian a lot too, like how everyone has jokes about these like buzzwords, but never really quite like articulates why. You just sort of pretend like I'm on the right
What
side of
what's
like
the how is a movie gonna do that? Like it has
so
like a little text on screen that's like, by the way, these guys are
no
bad and they contribute to gentrification or like
like well, I mean, in that scene, like this guy is very clearly a villain. He's on the phone in Barbarian. He's
yeah.
like driving, he's on the phone, he's talking about like he's being really misogynistic at one point on the phone. He's talking about some woman that he interacted with. Then he gets to this place, and then it's like, oh, on top of being a misogynist, he's also an Airbnb-er, right? He tries to like to exploit homes for this thing. It's almost like what we were talking about with AI earlier, where it's like, is it individual people using AI that's the problem? Is it AI the problem? They're like, when I saw that part of the movie, I remember thinking, oh, is this going to be like a fucking cool like anti-capitalist horror film? And then I kind of felt like, I didn't really, it kind of went into like gender stuff, but it didn't quite land anywhere. And it reminded me a lot of like when like I was first living in New York doing stand up, and like the word gentrification was just getting thrown around left and right, which is a word that you say if you want to sound like you have opinions about things, but not you might not necessarily have them. Like people would misuse it all the time, and it would just be like this brush where you could go, I sound like a fucking cool subversive person if I'm talking about gentrification, right? But people would use it in ways that I don't think made any sense and stuff like that. And like Barbarian, I remember being like, well, that was like a fun story, but I don't know fucking if I'd taken away that it fucking meant anything or intended to or what. I think it kind of just sounded like it did. And with Weapons, I kind of get in the same thing where I'm like, all right, like there's a lot going on here that seems like it was maybe a metaphor for something. But, you know, when I was like reading about it, I like Zach Krieger said that there's 3 films that he said are influences of it. The first one is Magnolia, which makes sense structure wise, right? And the second one I can't remember off the top of my head. I'm gonna look it up here in a second. And then the third one is Hereditary, and like Hereditary, I fucking love Hereditary. I definitely need to see Eddington. I haven't seen it, so I haven't brought it up. But I love Ari Aster, and you know, Hereditary fucking rules in a lot of ways, but I can see both of those influences in this movie, but only from the point of like the question of how to structure a movie or whatever, or like how to, or like I don't know, it doesn't like go all the way to like feeling like it's about something for me. Hereditary is like a movie that, you know, kind of established this elevated horror thing, like era, I think, and I've seen it in a bunch of other stuff, and I think that's interesting. Like I just saw this really good movie called Bring Her Back, which is another like elevated horror film. It's also a sophomore effort. It's from the guy who did Talk to Me, which is an Australian director.
Okay.
And it has like pretty similar plot to this and Hereditary, where there's a creepy person who's trying to do a ritual, and there's salt circles and stuff, and there's a creepy child and all this shit. And so like I guess yeah, another thing I was thinking about when I was watching this is like, okay, like does that mean something that horror creators right now are fixated on this like this genre, like this idea of like scary like ritual magic and stuff, or is this literally because it's such an individuated thing to have these like auteurs that it's not like a thematic reflection of the American psyche? It's literally that just that everyone liked Hereditary and they're like, I'm gonna make a Hereditary too, you know?
Wait,
I would
what are the 2 things you're counterposing there?
Well, so I've seen like this movie and another movie recently that
Uh-huh.
seemed like that were clearly very derivative of Hereditary, and also like said like, yeah, I really like Hereditary, both directors or whatever.
Yeah.
So what I'm asking is the explanation for this some really interesting like Zizek fucking thing where you could argue like, you know, vampires are about the aristocracy and that's why there's an era of vampire films, or zombies are about populism and that's why there's an era of zombie films during the Iraq War or something like that? Is there a fucking explanation for why there are these like ritual occult movies that kind of define the era of elevated horror that we're in? Or on the other hand, all of these directors are saying that they just really liked Hereditary. Is it
but
just that they really liked the movie Hereditary?
but see, I don't think you can separate those 2 things. Like they obviously people make movies are going to be influenced by other movies, and they're also going to be influenced by the broader cultural milieu and world and political situation that they're existing in.
Yeah, and I mean with their like Zach Krieger's professed lack of intention there, and his like, you know, his understanding that it's like, I don't know, what did you get out of it? You know, fair. I guess I'm just like, okay, well, if that's the way we're gonna look at this, what is it that everyone is feeling when they watch this movie? Like, what is it? Why is it hit
Different,
so hard?
probably different things. I mean, I don't think it's any different from any other movie in that regard. I mean, it's just making me think of how like a lot of superhero movies now are genuinely like what I would fantasize about like 10 years ago. It was like, man, if I made a superhero movie, it would be like woke. Like before, before that was a thing, but like, social
Mhm,
justice oriented, right? It would have
mhm.
good politics. And wouldn't that be mind blowing if you had Superman, but it's also about like American foreign policy being bad? And now we have that, and that's kind of impotent, like in a way that's more impotent than having something that is a lot more blurry of a sort of, you're not, it doesn't have like a very clear sort of political message. Like, I think we're putting too much on artists and filmmakers to have like a very clear sort of diagnosis or critique of society. Like that stuff is in there. And that's not to say that they don't have any responsibility to not put reactionary things on screen or to challenge us in any way. But I think it's tapping into some themes, but it's ultimately a work of art and not a social critique.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with you. I kind of talked myself in a circle. That is my intention. That's my like. I think that's makes better art than if it's like I'm going to make a movie that's about racism or whatever, like
Yeah.
deliberately. Um, so that's fine. I guess like I just don't know if it did that. Uh, I don't know if like what's interesting about it is that I'm trying to figure out what the that is like what you could even take away and go, well, this is a reflection of X, Y, or Z. Because to me, it almost just feels like what was actually impressive about the movie was the fucking form, was like
Mm.
the thing where it was really highly stylized.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that that is that cool. I don't know. I need to hear a take about this film that it was like about homeless people or something. For a second, I thought, you know what, it's kind of about homeless people, but then there's an actual homeless character in it. And well, that doesn't really work. Because I was like, oh, maybe Gladys is kind of freaky looking because she's like when you don't want to look at a homeless person, you know?
Mm.
But it doesn't work if there's already also a homeless person in it. Or maybe it does. I don't know. I just don't know what she's supposed to be.
Well, homeless people come up in Eddington, and that's been a criticism of Ari Aster someone made, is that he sort of instrumentalizes the homeless in like a dehumanizing way, which I don't agree with totally. But that is, and I won't spoil that, but it just what you were saying about the sort of the um the like hype. Eddington to me kind of had anti-hype. Like it had the opposite of that, and based solely on the trailer. I remember when that was dropped on social media a few months ago, and just immediately all these people were saying like, "Yep, loved Hereditary, loved his other movies, but this is bad. This is what happened." And they were like psychoanalyzing uh him in the context of other filmmakers, like this is what happens when a filmmaker makes their fourth movie and they've already been successful, and
Mhm.
he just doesn't get it, he's totally jumped the shark, and just all this stuff. And that actually turned me off from wanting to see it. And then I saw it and was blown away. Like this is probably the best movie I've seen all year, in 2025 is Eddington. And again, I don't want to spoil anything, but it just what you're saying reminded me of that, because it can work in both directions. Like people decide that something is like, that's not actually good without even seeing it in some cases.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, I guess the task of a critical viewer is to what I what I like to think I try to do is like strip that stuff away, but it's kind of impossible to not have it influence you somehow.
No, art is like collective,
Mm.
and that part that plays into the subjectivity of it. So like you can't do that really, even if you think you can. That would be weird rationalist guy thinking of like every movie I watch objectively without thinking about any of that
Yeah.
stuff. No, you can't help it. It's like part of it. So yeah, I think you got a point there. I think I did the opposite with this movie. Is I maybe like went in with too high of expectations, and then now
Yeah.
I'm like being weird about it because I don't feel like they were fulfilled or something.
Well, I think I was maybe somewhat let down in that. To me, Barbarian was so good, and this felt like kind of. I can't really put it into words either, but I wanted it to be. Yeah, maybe I wanted it to be more profound as well, but it kind of was content to just be kind of like a horror comedy, for better or worse.
Yeah, I might feel that way about Barbarian too, but whatever. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. It feels weird. I guess I feel like we're at a point in history, and I'm at a point in my life, and everything is so intense that it feels weird that movies are just a good time sometimes, and that they're not advancing any collective like fucking form or anything like that, or just whatever. Like I always have this weird feeling like when I watch like Black Mirror, like it comes out now every fucking half a decade or whatever, and you're like the professed like point of this show is to comment on something, right? And then they'll do an episode and the reveal is just like it's a werewolf, and I'm like, who the fuck like at this point in history would devote time to making a story about a werewolf? Like doesn't it seems like inappropriate to me, but that might be a me problem where I can't like just relax and have a good time and enjoy life, I guess, or something. Maybe it is okay to just make a movie that is just like fun. I just feel like why would you retread like genres that have already been done unless you're gonna do something like Sinners and like put stuff on top of it, you know?
Was that the paparazzi episode of Black Mirror?
Yeah. Yeah.
That one was cool. I liked how that was in 2003, but
That is fun. All right.
yeah.
Well, I'm done talking about weapons. I'm done with a lot of stuff, so we can wind down here. Anything to plug?
I actually do something relevant to this, to movies. As listeners, have probably forgotten by now. About a year ago, I had on my friends, Charlotte Albrecht and Donald Bornstein, who has been working for Zoran. And before they did that, they made a movie with me. And it's finally, barring two very minor tweaks, fingers crossed, is done. I mean, there's definitely a cut of it that will be done and will be shown on August 30th at Woodbine, which apparently is changing its name. Sorry, apologies to the Ridgewood Commons for dead naming you. I guess that's the name, but it's also in flux. They haven't set up the new page for Ridgewood Commons, so Woodbine, for all intents and purposes, is what it'll be called on this episode. But it is on 525 Woodward Avenue in Ridgewood, and we'll be showing there the movie, which is called Kitchen Conversations.
Ooh.
And hopefully I think I can say it is a provocative movie that I'm very proud of, and I'm really lucky I got to work with some awesome people on. It'll be showing there at 9:00 on August 30th at Woodbine, and it's free. I'm not charging anybody anything, so come on out to that. I'll put a Partyful link in the description. You can just RSVP, so we have an idea of how many people will be coming out. And then if you're in Queens this week on August 21st, Thursday, come on out to the Paid Protest Queens edition at QED, raising money for the NYCDSA membership committee. We got Davidson Boswell, Ashton Womack, me, myself, Freddie G. It'll be a fun show. Put the link for that in the description also.
I heard Zoran watched Donald's footage of you in that film, and he was like taking notes on how to move his arms when he walks and stuff like that, so that he looks great in the videos that they made,
like,
and it worked.
Do whatever the opposite of this weirdo does with his arms.
He's walking with his hands straight down. Yeah. It's like 1 million votes. He wins that by a huge margin. What's up? I have a show in LA. My show LAFF BLOC is happening at the Lyric Hyperion on the 28th of this month. That's in 10 days. And I got my friend Maggie May. She's been on Conan. I got my friend Anna Valenzuela. She's been on the fucking Fest and Warped Tour and stuff. And I got a headliner who I still haven't confirmed. So if it's not him, I'll get somebody fucking cool. And I'm gonna do some fucking time too. So you want to see me do some stand up and raise some money for, I think it's gonna be for Churla, but it's at the very least gonna be something that's against ICE. I got all that hammered out this week, but come on out. Link will be in the notes and stuff to LAFF BLOC, the only anti-fascist comedy show here in Los Angeles. Asterisk. Okay, it's finished.